Hi everyone, I'm Larry Satchwell, and if you know me, you know I've always got a project. Well, today's project is this pocket knife called Easy Smith, a DIY knife kit from KnifeKits.com. I'll put a link down below. I've never put together a pocket knife before, but this one looks pretty straightforward and easy. It comes with everything you need, including the scales, and basically all you have to do is put it together. Nice little package too. So the directions say to lay everything out so you have everything where you need it. The first thing you need to do is to put this little doohickey in here, and I got it started. This helps you open the blade. Then I'm going to put these scales on this side right here. This is where you need a number 5 Torx screwdriver. All right, one down. These barrels have a little indentation in them so you know which ones you're using. And this little guy has 2 ends that look exactly the same. They go right there. Then we'll put this pin in, then a plastic washer, then the blade, then the other washer goes on, then the other piece goes on, then the other scale goes on. And since I have the number 5 in here, I'll go ahead and put those on there. Oh, they gave me an extra screw. That's a good deal. Unless I'm missing something. So that's it. Undo the blade lock and you can close it. I'm going to do this one better. This came with this Bubinga scales and they're beautiful. But I have a special project in mind for this. It's going to be a gift to a special guy. I've watched him grow up and he graduated from high school. I have this piece of Osage orange, and it's a special piece of Osage orange, and after I put everything back together, I'll give you the backstory on it. But I've already prepared it a little bit. I cut this when I found out he was graduating from high school, and just sliced it thin here, and I've been baking this for the last month in the microwave every day for about 30 seconds to a minute at a time. But I'm sure it's not going to split. It's really solid. So I'm going to try to get some knife scales out of this. I've already run it through the planer. I've already flattened this side on sandpaper. So the next thing I'm going to do is try to split this in half because it's still more than twice as wide, about 3 times as wide as this scale that's on here. What I have here is the sandpaper I use to sharpen my planer blades with. So a piece of granite, 1 inch thick, or quartz, or whatever this is. I got it free from the countertop people. This is the piece that's dead flat, and I did that by rubbing this on the 80 grit side here. And I think this side is the one I want to flatten now. So I'm going to put some pencil marks on there. And just go the slow process here of trying to remove all of those marks. I've deconstructed the knife. I've got a long way to go. And this is the scale that's on it, 32/2 of an inch. too thick. Well, that was a fail. Even though I've got this, I've only been turning this like 1/8 of a crank, it's still tearing out really bad. I really wish I had a stationary sander right now, but I don't. So I'm gonna try to do this with my belt sander. Still plenty thick enough on both of those. Beautiful color on this side. Oh yeah, those are still plenty thick. Actually, they're really close. All right, more prep work. So now that I have this pretty flat, pretty thin, I want to look for the best grain here, and I want to try to get both sides out of it. So I'm going to put that right there. I think that'll give me enough room. So I'm going to trace that. I'm going to leave this for now because I'm not sure if I want it to go this way, or that way. So I'll take this over to the bandsaw and roughly cut this out. Seems to be a pretty uniform thickness. If you're working with really rare material, mammoth tusk or some really exotic expensive wood, you want to make sure that you've got the right side facing out when you're finished. So when I finish, this knife is going to be, this is the outside right here. So I want it to look, I want this to be the outside. But I want this piece to be dead flat to lay against the knife itself. So I'm going to actually use the knife to make sure that piece is dead flat. And so the first thing I want to do is flatten this side so it's really, really flat. A little bit of a wobble in there right now. And to do that, I'm going to go back to the taping method. Double checking, that's the side I want to make flat right now. This is actually part of a table, Dana's table that I cut down for the kids' table. But I really like using this profile here. Eventually I'll need to profile it right there, but right now I'm just trying to make it flat. So this is 80 grit, and this is the process. Pencil marks all over. Wow, that only took a few strokes. All right, now that I've got the 80 grit, I'll go to 120. More pencil marks. 180. $220. And 400. This is going to be right here, but I'm going to drill these from this side. So I need 3 holes here, one here, and one here, and one here. And so now I can tape this side. Now that I have this ready, this is going to be the good side, and I want to flatten that. Just a rough flattening right now. And because this grain is so unpredictable, I think it's best just to try to sand down to it. So that's what I'll be spending the next few minutes on. It doesn't take long, but that's the procedure. And when I get close to this, I'll use this little angle right here. I want to see what I'm doing though, so it's a little bit difficult. That's the procedure. I'll be back when it's finished. Getting closer. I like to keep the sandpaper nice and fresh, so I use one of these little eraser bars, and that way it keeps cutting really nice. So it's really getting close now. You got to pay close attention, although the metal makes a little bit different sound. So I am really close. So I'm going to switch over to this sandpaper. This sandpaper is meant to cut metal. So even if I come up to the metal here, each one of these will polish that a little bit more and refine it. One of the problems you do run into is you can see the tape right there. That's, yeah, I don't know how to avoid that unless I just make a thin layer there, but it's no big deal. One of the things you've got to be careful of is burning this end grain. So you've got to be really careful as you go through it. And you can hear the metal now. So if I hear metal, I just back off of that spot. 150. See the metal shavings there now. Really brings it out. I think I'm ready to cut some holes. And here's how I'm going to do it. I have a 3/32. It's a little bit loose in there. This is probably metric. I'm just going to give this a few twists. This one's really close to the edge. Just a little pinpoint there in the middle. Time to take it to the drill press. As you can see, I have a tiniest little drill bit in there. One of the smallest I have, and certainly one of the smallest that this chuck will hold. And I'm going to drill a through hole all the way through there. That's what I was going for, 2 tiny little holes. So this is probably the hardest part of the whole thing. I want to just bury that screw head. And if I had a small step drill, this would be easy. But I don't. And I'm not sure they make a step drill this small. I looked on the internet a little bit. I didn't see anything close. So that's my pilot hole. Another brad point bit, and I've got a little run out on this drill, so that doesn't help. This is a really old drill press. A little bit more. Do it. Switched over to a 3/32, and I need to do the through hole there. So I've switched over to that number 8 for this through hole. Carefully peel this off of here. With my pocket knife, Then I can compare it to this one, and they look good. Now all we have to do is repeat the same exact procedure for this one. And I'll show you the finished knife. They're all finished. I put a coat of walnut oil on them. Walnut oil is activated by UV rays, so they're out here in the sun. It takes a little while for them to cure, and I'll put them back together. Well, I just finished putting this together. And full disclosure, these are not the same scales you saw me working on. I just didn't like the fit of these when I went to put it together, and so I made some new scales. But this Osage orange is some special Osage orange to me. When I was throwing in the Highland Games, Ross Morrison was a judge. He passed away a few years ago, but he and I had developed such a nice friendship. This knife is for his grandson, Joseph Eason, who graduated from high school this year. And Joe, your granddad, Ross, had a part in growing this Osage orange. He was always the judge at the Montgomery Highland Games. I threw there, and then I judged with him. I announced there. And he and I were sitting around talking after the games one day, amazed at all the Osage orange trees at the Shakespearean Festival, large fairgrounds there, park kind of deal in Montgomery. And he said, well, they're not hard to grow. So he and I collected about 2 Kroger sacks full of hedge apples, horse apples, whatever you want to call them. And he knew a lot about a lot of different things. He said, just take them home, half bury them, or maybe 3/4 bury them, and let nature do its thing. Well, that was in the fall. So in the spring, lo and behold, several of those hedge apples grew into hedge apple trees. And I planted them along the creek out there. So, Joe, I don't know if this is one of the hedge apples your granddad picked up. It very well could be. But anyway, whenever I go out there, I think of Ross Morrison, and the memory of us picking up those hedge apples comes flooding back into my brain. I really miss him. And Joseph, it's been a pleasure watching you grow up. You're a great young man, Eagle Scout. I'm really proud to know you, and I think your future is very bright. So when you look at this Osage orange, I hope it reminds you of your granddad, Ross Morrison. Hope you enjoy it.